Denver, get ready because this is one of the wildest 24-hour swings this Broncos team has produced all camp. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why. Bo Nix went from arguably his worst practice of the entire summer straight into what may be the single best throw anyone has ever seen him make. On top of that, we have got a legitimate breakout moment from the defense. A communications staffer dropping a stat that should terrify the rest of the AFC West. And to top it all off, a rival team just suffered a brutal injury blow while their head coach delivered one of the most bizarre press conference moments you will ever witness. This is Broncos news today, and we are covering every single piece of it. So settle in, because this one is packed. Before we get rolling, I need a quick favor from you. This channel is on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers, and we are getting closer every single day thanks to viewers like you. If you have not subscribed yet, please take 2 seconds right now and hit that button. It genuinely helps us keep bringing you this kind of deep, honest Broncos coverage day in and day out. Okay, let's get into it. Let's rewind first, because you need the full picture to understand just how wild this turnaround really was. The day before this final open practice, the Broncos offense had an ugly outing, and Bo Nix specifically had arguably his worst day of the entire training camp. Interceptions were thrown, he got sacked. The offense as a whole looked sluggish, lethargic, and simply off. Things got heated too. Bo Nix got hit on a play, got understandably frustrated, threw the ball in the direction of a defender, and a dog pile and scrum broke out shortly after. Sean Payton addressed the incident afterward and made it clear it was not a big deal, just football players being competitive. And Bo Nix himself came out and said he genuinely loved that moment, that the physicality and the fire fueled him rather than rattled him. But here is the real question that mattered heading into the very last open practice of training camp. How was Bo Nix going to respond with his back against the wall after a rough outing like that? And it should surprise exactly nobody who has watched this quarterback's career unfold that when Bo Nix gets challenged, he answers in a massive way. Because on this final practice, he did not just bounce back, he had arguably the single best day of his entire training camp, and by some accounts, one of the best throws anyone has ever personally witnessed him make. Here is the play everybody is talking about. Bo Nix working in a one-on-one setting against the Broncos' actual starting defense, not a scout team look, not a second string rep. The real number one defense in the entire NFL uncorked a 60-yard touchdown bomb to Jalen Waddle. And the defender he beat on that play, Pat Surtain. Arguably the single best quarterback alive today. People who were physically at that practice described it as the best throw they have personally ever seen Bo Nix make. With some going as far as saying it was right up there with that unforgettable connection to Marvin Mims against the Browns as the most impressive throw of his entire career. A 60-yard ball in the air hitting a receiver in stride against the number one quarterback in the league. Let that sink in for a moment. And here is a fun little detail that tells you just how much this coaching staff values that specific play design. Members of the media who captured that touchdown on video actually asked Sean Payton for permission to release the footage publicly. Sean Payton immediately shut that request down, essentially saying that scoring a touchdown with that exact play in a real live NFL game matters far more to him than letting the media have a viral training camp clip. Which means, frustratingly for all of us, we do not actually get to see the throw ourselves. But what we do know is unmistakable. Jalen Waddle is fully healthy, fully unlocked, and he just torched arguably the best quarterback on the planet in a competitive one-on-one setting. Take a step back and think about what this actually means for the Broncos offense. This is a level of speed and route running that this franchise simply has not had at the wide receiver position in years. Arguably, going back to the Demaryius Thomas era, Jerry Jeudy flashed some of that same route running ability at times, but he was never able to sustain it with consistency. Jalen Waddle has already shown it in practice, and now people are legitimately starting to believe he is going to show it consistently in real games too. And the fact that he burned Pat Surtain specifically, arguably the toughest cover assignment in all of football, tells you everything you need to know about what this offense is about to unlock. Pat Surtain, for what it is worth, was fairly nonchalant about the whole thing in his own press conference, essentially shrugging it off and saying that is simply going to happen sometimes. Which, fair enough, but it does not make the moment any less enormous for Broncos fans dreaming about what this passing attack could look like in 2026. And the 60-yard bomb to Waddle was far from the only highlight of the day. Bo Nix was slinging it all over the field. Evan Engram hauled in a pair of impressive back-to-back catches immediately following that Waddle touchdown, going for 15 and 25 yards respectively. In his own press conference, Engram spoke about offensive coordinator Davis Webb's approach to designing plays, explaining that Webb is far more focused on tailoring plays specifically around individual players' unique skill sets rather than simply reacting to whatever a given opposing defense happens to be showing. That is a genuinely exciting philosophy to hear because it suggests this offense is being built to maximize the specific talents already on the roster rather than forcing players into a generic one size fits all scheme. On top of all of that, there was more good injury news to report. J.K. Dobbins was back out there and practicing. Marvin Mims was fully suited up and going through drills as well. And obviously, if Jalen Waddle is out there hauling in 60-yard touchdown passes over Pat Surtain, he is clearly a full go heading into the regular season. This is about as complete a health report as Broncos fans could have hoped for heading into the final stretch of preseason. We also got official confirmation that Bo Nix and his surgically repaired ankle will absolutely be playing this Friday night against the Green Bay Packers. And it sounds like the Packers plan on rolling out their starting unit for the beginning of that game as well, which sets up a genuinely competitive opening script for both sides. Reports suggest Bo Nix is currently projected for somewhere around 14 offensive plays in the first quarter alone, and depending on how explosive those early drives look, especially if there are a few more deep connections to Jalen Waddle mixed in, do not be shocked if the plan extends and Bo Nix ends up playing in the second quarter as well. Now let's zoom out for a second and talk about the bigger picture here, because the hype around this team is not just coming from fans anymore. NFL.com recently ranked the Broncos as the second best team in all of professional football in their latest power rankings. And when you actually sit down and look at where Bo Nix stacks up statistically against historically great quarterbacks through this stage of a career, the numbers back up the hype in a serious way. 24 career wins already, outpacing legends like Dan Marino in both wins and total yards accounted for through this same stretch of a career. And he has done all of that while playing behind the largest dead cap charge in NFL history, a direct byproduct of everything the organization gave up to originally acquire Russell Wilson and eventually bring in Sean Payton. Bo Nix has produced elite, historic level numbers in spite of that financial disadvantage, not because of some perfectly cleared cap sheet. And fittingly, he seems to consistently save his very best for the moments that matter most. Whether that is a fourth quarter comeback when his team is down, or bouncing back from his single worst practice of the summer with arguably the best throw of his entire career the very next day. Here is what makes all of this even more exciting when you zoom out to the macro level. This Broncos team has made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons, largely riding the strength of an elite dominant defense while the offense played more of a complementary game manager role. Now imagine pairing that same elite defense with an offense that is legitimately explosive, dynamic, and dangerous in its own right. If this offense settles in as a top 10 unit in the NFL, while the defense remains a top 2 unit like it has been, you are talking about a legitimate Super Bowl caliber football team. This is not just about being as good as last season. This roster, on paper, has every ingredient necessary to be significantly better. And speaking of that defense, it was not just the offense flashing during this final practice. There were some genuinely exciting moments on the other side of the ball, too. Q Robinson intercepted quarterback Jarrett Stidham and returned it for a pick six. If Q Robinson is taking a real developmental step forward this season, that is an enormous boost for a Broncos defense that is already loaded with talent. Here is a stat that deserves real attention, and it did not come from some random fan account or content creator. It came directly from a member of the Broncos' own communication staff, someone who ultimately answers to Sean Payton and carries a level of accountability that outside media simply does not have. That staffer pointed out that this Broncos defense is currently generating more turnovers at this point in camp than it was at the same point a season ago. And here's the context that makes that stat even more meaningful. All offseason, plenty of national media outlets have tried to poke holes in the Broncos' success by pointing out how many close one-score games they won a season ago, framing that as some kind of unsustainable fluky trend heading into a potential regression. But what almost nobody points out is a far more statistically bizarre outlier from last season: the fact that this defense led the entire NFL in total sacks and yet somehow forced only 2 fumbles all year long. If you think about that in terms of pure football randomness, generating 68 sacks and only causing 2 fumbles across an entire season is an incredibly fluky, low probability outcome. Arguably far more unsustainable statistically than simply winning a disproportionate share of close games, which means logically, turnover luck should be trending back in the Broncos' favor this season, not away from it. If this defense produces anywhere close to 40 quarterback hits again this year, it stands to reason they are going to be forcing considerably more turnovers than they did a season ago. All right, before we shift gears into some news about a division rival, I want to take a moment and ask for your support one more time. If you are enjoying this level of detail and this kind of honest breakdown of everything happening around the Broncos organization, that is exactly the content this channel is built to deliver every single day. We are chasing down 1,000 subscribers, and every single person who hits that subscribe button gets us one step closer to that goal. So if you have not already, please subscribe right now before we move on to our final story. Now, normally there is a rule around here. We try not to take excessive victory laps over a division rival's misfortune, but this particular story is simply too fascinating to skip past. The Los Angeles Chargers have reportedly lost their starting center to a significant long-term injury. The organization has not officially confirmed exactly how long he is expected to be out. But based on head coach Jim Harbaugh's own body language and demeanor discussing the situation, it is fair to assume this is a season-ending type of injury. Harbaugh appeared on the Pat McAfee show to discuss the news, and the reaction from that appearance has become an instant talking point across the football world. Pat McAfee himself remarked afterward that he had never personally seen Jim Harbaugh look that deflated or defeated. Harbaugh's opening remarks were something along the lines of admitting his spirits, or as he put it, using an old obscure early 1900s slang term, his dauber were down today. Watch his shoulders visibly slump as he says it. And look, using outdated slang aside, that is simply not the tone or body language you want from your franchise's head coach when addressing a significant injury to your football team. Compare that reaction to how Sean Payton handled a remarkably similar situation last season when Bo Nix himself went down with that ankle injury following the Bills game. Sean Payton got directly in front of a camera almost immediately and delivered total unwavering confidence, declaring that Jarrett Stidham was ready to step in and lead his football team without missing a beat. The entire fan base rallied around that same energy, changing social media profile pictures, refusing to let belief waver for a single moment. And Sean Payton's read on that situation turned out to be exactly right. The Broncos went on to lose that AFC Championship game by a heartbreaking final score of 10-7, just 3 points away from punching a ticket to the Super Bowl. It was Sean Payton's genuine, almost irrational confidence in that moment that carried this entire team and fan base through a truly difficult stretch, and it very nearly worked out in the most dramatic way possible. Body language matters. What a head coach says in a moment of adversity matters. How a locker room reacts to a leader's response in a crisis matters immensely. And that side-by-side comparison, Sean Payton's steely, immediate confidence following Bo Nix's injury against Jim Harbaugh's visibly deflated demeanor following his center's injury, says an awful lot about the difference in leadership philosophy between these two organizations heading into the 2026 season. And honestly, it makes you appreciate the situation in Denver even more. Every single player this team has lost at various points throughout training camp has returned to practice and performed at an incredibly high level, exactly as we just witnessed with Jalen Waddle's stunning return to form. And on top of that, this organization has a head coach who does not just motivate individual players, he motivates the entire building. It is genuinely fascinating to think back on how close Jim Harbaugh once came to landing in Denver himself, and how fortunate this fan base ultimately is that things worked out the way they did. Landing an elite motivator and program builder in Sean Payton instead, watching him lead this team toward what could be a real Super Bowl run should give every single Broncos fan an enormous amount of confidence heading into this season. So let's recap everything we just covered. Bo Nix bouncing back from arguably his worst practice of the summer with arguably the best throw of his entire career, a 60-yard touchdown bomb over Pat Surtain to a fully healthy, fully explosive Jalen Waddle. Confirmation that Bo Nix will play significant snaps this Friday against the Packers, a defense that is not just elite against the pass and run, but is now trending toward generating significantly more turnovers than it did a season ago. And to close things out, a fascinating contrast in leadership between Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh in the face of a tough injury situation, one that should leave every single Broncos fan feeling great about the direction of this organization. This is exactly the kind of complete, detailed Broncos breakdown this channel exists to deliver, and we are just getting started heading into the regular season. So, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, do me one final favor. Hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more Broncos fans out there searching for this kind of coverage. Drop a comment down below and let us know, are you as fired up about that Waddle touchdown as we are? And if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. We are chasing down 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you watching right now can help us get there. Thank you all so much for sticking around to the very end. Broncos country, this is shaping up to be an incredible season, and this channel will be right here covering every single moment of it. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next one.
Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 2,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.